How are you?
I am good.
Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, thanks for coming to do this. Are you good with how to do it? And just,
I think so. I'm gonna share my screen if that's all right. And I have
yep,
Jess who can't join me right now, but we did a PowerPoint presentation for the Alaska Southeast Alaska Farmers
right.
Summit, and it's a probably geared more to a 30-minute presentation, but I'm just gonna kind of pick and choose some slides and generally try to get stay on track with 15. But it'll have some good images. I'm actually at my day job right now.
Oh, well,
So
thank you
I'm
for
not
taking
not
the
in the
time to
farm.
do this.
Oh, yeah, of course. Like I have some flexibility in all my little places, so no
Yeah,
one's missing me right now. So um but yeah,
I love
the
flexible jobs like that. That's always the
yeah,
fun part.
it becomes less flexible as summer rolls around. It's I manage a restaurant and a large charter fishing fleet and um a marine outboard dealership that are all under the same company up down here in Ketchikan.
Okay.
And then Ketchikan Ever Greens was what I've been doing for the last 4 years with my wife. So entrepreneurs are sometimes at some point get that call to jump back into their old careers. And this is my first time working for this company, but I've had a background in tourism a long time. So that's what
Yeah.
it got me back in. And so we're adjusting to that, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's I have yeah, four different businesses to keep track of right now. So it does I'm spin my
Sure.
mind, or it's a lot of juggling. Yeah. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's cool. I obviously I get a lot of Alaska Food Policy Council information and meetings and kind of see what you guys are up to. And so cool to see there's a hydroponic working group. And
Yeah, we just started
um
it last year. It came out as a result of all mostly there were three of us that were like, we need to do this. It was Kodiak first, and then I was like, I've been wanting this for a long time, and it's just good.
mm,
It's good for us to hear all the different things that are going on around the state and knowing
yeah,
that hydroponics is really kind of kicking up a bit
yeah,
in the state
yeah,
because we have support for it. We've been up here at the Soil and Water District, been working on a grant where we're getting a whole bunch of systems into the schools, and
cool.
and then by default, there's a lot of interest in the community now with doing their own hydroponics as well as seeing about getting a bigger hydroponic farm up here. It's just a matter of time. So
Cool.
I
Cool.
think,
Yeah. Well, I'll happy to share how we did it and
oh,
what we
this is
have going
great.
on, how much we produce, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Brett, it's nice to see you. Brett's with the Seeds Change in Anchorage.
Oh, cool. Hey, Brett.
Hello.
Glad you could join us. Yay. How are things with the maintenance going? We got the you got the roof that needs to be done, but everything else is going along. You'll talk later, but
Yeah,
I've been thinking about you guys.
stuff's going on. We got some stuff growing in our office space. We got like a Cully tower just over there,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
going to the next office, and we got some grow carts and a germination station set up just next door.
Cool. Oh, that's good. Hi, Marissa. Nice to see you.
How is everyone?
We're good. We'll give the customary few more minutes for people to join us. I know Liam said he was going to be joining us from North Pole High School. He's really excited about hearing what you guys are doing down in Ketchikan too. Hey, Geoff, are you guys coming to Kodiak or
I
no?
can't. No, Southeast Alaska Summit was our one opportunity. They asked us to speak, and so we felt we should go, and it was great. We had a great time, and but I'm getting close to starting up summer operations here for in the tourism world. So it's just going to be more than we can do. Will you guys hold another one next year, or is this a biannual thing?
It's every 18 months the
Every
Food
18 months.
Policy
Oh,
Council
okay,
does it. So we've been doing that
cool.
since the very first one. So we usually it switches back and forth between
Spring and
March
fall.
and November usually. And our
Yeah.
November, when the next one will be lined up with the Farm Bureau meeting, but
Oh, nice.
not
Yeah,
not
November would
this
be a
coming
great
fall, but the
month
following
for
fall.
me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know some Kodiak folks that have used the system we have, Bright Box Farms. So maybe they'll be in there.
Oh, cool. I hope so.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've heard of them, but and I think they might be selling to a nonprofit or maybe a tribal organization that was looking to take over their operations. That's the last I had heard, but I still see them posting as their farm, operating as normal right now.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing a bit more work with the villages and tribal organizations, but we need to do more, as always.
Yeah,
Yay,
there's
Max
like
is here.
there's well more than we can do that we could ever actually really make a dent in this challenge here, right? So
Well, yeah, that's the whole point behind doing this working group is, is seeing if we can help encourage more connections and support systems to help people be successful. I think that's the bigger thing is because a lot of times people try hydroponics and they get really intimidated by some of the more technical systems that really get them overwhelmed with the way they run, and we've been working hard in Fairbanks to do simplified systems that are
Mhm.
just as easy to use, but highly productive without you don't have to wear a hazmat suit to walk in the door kind of a thing. That's that,
Sure.
yeah, but
And
Our systems,
every little bit of fresh food counts.
I think so
yeah.
too. Anything is good, even if it's a 6 plants, little thing on the desktop. You still got some food growing, and I'm all good with that. So,
Mhm.
yay, Max! I'm glad you're here. We'll give Liam just another minute or two, and then we can get started. He's the only one I know that's definitely coming, but we might have some other folks. Who knows? We had a few new
I don't
people,
have a
and
hard exit either, so
okay, oh good,
I'm fine to be.
yeah. I will keep my talking to a minimum because I'm still sounding very gravelly.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Yeah, we've all had
Yeah,
our spring fever. I feel like
I'm
I just got
into
over mine a week ago.
I'm in week 3 of this thing, so ugh, it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's a
want to let
long.
go.
I think I ended up with the influenza A or something.
You know. Well, I think we can just do a quick round robin so everybody knows who's here and where you guys are from, and then we'll let Geoff take over and start sharing. But Marissa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Marissa McCassin, and I'm a cooperative extension agent for the Tribes Extension Program, and I serve the Aleutian Pribilofs region. So I haven't engaged I'm also an AFPC board member, and so I haven't engaged a lot in hydroponics so far, but we're getting a lot of answers in our feasibility studies, especially actually in the last month, that people are quite interested in hydroponics at both like a household level and then also in a few of the communities at a commercial level in the Aleutians. And so really trying to learn as much as I can so I can help serve the region. And I guess my question for the day, if anyone wants to type it in the chat, is that we just got the okay from our higher ups at APIA that we can purchase a small hydroponic system to like kind of test around with to then hopefully be able to ship a few out to the region. So if anyone has recommendations for kind of like easy to use starter ones, Mel, I've thought about your directions of like making them from scratch, but I'm a little bit
No.
I'm a little bit iffy about actually like whether I could get them out to some of the places that we want to start experimenting. And so I'm looking for like easy to use intro system that will not get people scared of the maintenance side of things.
I'm gonna
Mm.
make a recommendation for you right now, and that's the Let Us Grow towers. They're easy to ship and they're kind of a no-brainer. They work well. Their shape is really nice. We've kind of switched over to doing them in the schools because they look good and they're easy to get. But just a recommendation, you can get like just the regular one that's got like four levels to it. It's called the Farmstead one, and it's not too bad as far as the shipping is concerned. We get it pretty easily up here. And the company, the one thing about the company is that they have really, really terrible customer service. So just give you that forewarning, but they're a pretty easy, straightforward thing to do if you don't want to do the bucket one.
Yeah, and I
Don't
didn't
the
mean
gar
I didn't mean to derail the conversation because I want to hear from you, Jeff, but I thought I'd throw that out there because it's top of mind because I just got the message that we got the okay to get one in the office to start trial and erroring. So
Yeah, I would. We order them and they come here probably within the week. They're really super fast shipping, and we just get it really. And they come in a really nice big box. So that's the one thing. So check it out. You can get an extension unit on it, and you can have up to 6, which really works nice. But there, you can come over and check it out. There's a few are in Fairbanks sometime soon. You're welcome to come see it. Anybody else have a suggestion? I didn't mean to jump on it.
That's probably good if you're trying to grow lettuce and herbs.
Yeah, if you want tomatoes, don't use those. We've been testing them. They're just the roots really bind up the whole system. If you want to do tomatoes, I recommend the Dutch buckets or something similar. They're good for like cucurbits too. So any of that stuff. The Dutch buckets, not the towers. All right. Well, Max, you want to introduce yourself? Looks nice down there. Hope it's like that next week.
Yeah, we got some sun. I'm calling in from Kodiak. Beautiful day. Looking out. This is actually one of the Connex units owned by the tribe. They have a kitchen too and VHH Hydroponics. But I'm working with the Kodiak Archipelago Leadership Institute, Cali, helping to support the Luktik grown farming network. So a group of farms scattered around the Kodiak Archipelago that are owned by the communities or tribes. And we use hydroponics to extend the growing season. So various sizes of systems and scales. I think hopefully bringing on a farm online maybe, or there is one here in Kodiak that is a freight farm system too. I think that's what you guys are using.
Yeah.
This container here is more horizontal NFT channels in there, so definitely not the vertical. Can't
Did you
crank
say
out
with
your
vertical
hands.
harvest
Yeah,
hydroponics?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got
Um,
cabinets from them as well. Smaller, 115
cool.
unit. Yeah. Um, so just
I work with
supporting
a
them.
guy. I work with a guy in my other job here, and it was kind of random, but he was one of the founders of that technology. He's no longer with them, but yeah, I'm super familiar with the system. Really cool. I'll have to tell him.
Yeah.
What's his name? I was he the one that
Dan Perpich is
okay.
his name. He now works in commercial real estate, and he runs he puts together he has another company that acquires like does succession planning for companies. So I work for a company called Baranoff Holdings, which owns a restaurant in Ketchikan, a charter fishing fleet, and a marine shop, and his company purchased all of those, and then I'm his GM. So it's sort of random when I hired the job, and I have this commercial container farm that I'm dealing with as well. He's like, "Oh, I founded Vertical Harvest." So, but he's up in Anchorage, and I know his business partner who he started with is still doing it. So, um, yeah, cool. Well, nice to meet you, Max.
Yeah,
Right.
glad you jumped on the call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brett, you're on.
Well, I'm Brett. I'm a shift lead here at an see the chief. And that's kind of about it for me.
Okay.
Cool.
And I'm up in Fairbanks at the Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District. We've been doing hydroponic stuff since about 2017 here, starting work with teachers and schools and branching out to working with folks in the community and developing new systems. Our biggest claim right now to fame is getting work on some of the biologic fertilizer systems that are easy to set up and easy to run, and so you have a steady supply of fertilizer that it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to feed your plants. So
Cool.
yeah. So Jeff, I'm gonna hand it over to you and you can
Okay.
introduce and do what
Yeah.
you need to do.
So my name's Geoff Jans. I am partner with my wife in Ketchikan Ever Greens, which is a commercial leafy greens supplier in Ketchikan. And I put a slideshow together. So I had this for the Southeast Alaska Farmers Conference. So I figured I'd jump over to it if you guys are all right with that, and can you still hear me
Yep.
and see
I can hear
this?
you just
Everything
fine.
looking good? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're located in Ketchikan. This is kind of one iteration of the farms. We've put some roof coverings over.
Okay, we can't
Over,
see a slideshow yet. Did you share
Oh,
it?
no, maybe I didn't. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, rookie move,
Did you-
share. There we go.
Yeah.
And
Now we can see it, no problem.
great. So slideshows. All right, there we go. So we used, as Max mentioned, Freight Farms as our the company that we're using to back the technology behind our hydroponic operation. And so they're just two 40-foot shipping containers retrofitted to grow more in a vertical wicking strip style. And I'll get into that here. You can kind of see, so these are more of a living wall lettuce operation. Tons of pros and cons. I could talk all day about what's great about this system, what's not great about it. It seems like with hydroponics, as you guys are aware, everything's a trade-off. And wicking strips pretty forgiving compared to NFT. Is like a pump fails, we don't lose the product right away anyway, and there's some nice recovery there. But just to kind of introduce Ketchikan Ever Greens, we're a year-round producer of leafy greens. We started in 2021. It's a CEA system, controlled environment agriculture. We at this stage in our operations are growing primarily one cut lettuce varieties and brassicas. Our core product is a lettuce mix. And our distribution model and how we sell the majority of what we grow is a flexible CSA subscription. So we have subscribers that have essentially pre-purchased our product each week. And our primary distribution is a door-to-door delivery service in an electric car. So I'd be happy to talk about why we chose to do that and how we do it. And it definitely intimidates people when they hear how much deliveries we're doing, but we've found it's a pretty cost-effective, reliable way to sell your product as a farmer in this community anyway. And Ketchikan has some advantages with its climate that aren't necessarily as applicable to other parts of the state. So I'm trying to jump here. Here we go. So I do this with my family. That's my wife, Jessica there. She grew up in Ketchikan and we met here back in 2005 and we're living up in South Central for a long time and then ended up out in the Pacific Northwest, lower 48. When the pandemic hit, we decided we wanted to come back to Ketchikan. So we sold our home and put the money from that sale into starting this business. And so I have a career in commercial tourism, business operations, and no previous farming experience. So this was our first, like just sink or swim situation where we were crazy enough, I think, in the pandemic to think that this was something we could do. And we did have experience managing remote lodges out of Seward in the Kenai Fjords National Park. So kind of familiar with big systems and complicated operations like this. So that's maybe what gave us a little courage to do it. And we're glad we did because it's been a really cool thing. The farms are built in Boston and shipped here, and during COVID, that was really expensive to ship them up. The way that the supply chains were so screwed up at that time. The They do come pretty plug and play. So each container is like a normal shipping container has 320 square feet of growing space. And with the vertical walls, we're about able to grow with 650 square feet of space in each container. So about 1,300 square feet total of growing space in our operation. You need a 50 by 8 level space to grow. We use 100 amps of power each unit. We're pretty light on water. We don't need constant access to it. We're not hard plumbed in. We use a retractable hose when we need to add water to the system. Overall, if you calculated our water use over a year, we probably average around 5 gallons a day of water to use. And we operate on commercial property, but in Ketchikan, in any case, we could have landed these on a residential property as long as we continued with our business model where we don't sell any of our product on site where we are. And so that's kind of a neat thing and opens up, at least in Ketchikan, where there isn't a lot of affordable commercial property or just property in general. We're in a housing crisis here. If you have space for one of these in your backyard, you can land it there. And as long as you're not having people come to you to pick up the product, it's all good. And they're permitted as temporary structures. And so we only had to get electrical permits to get them landed on this site. So pretty easy to do. We landed it, the first one, and we were growing within 5 days. So really quick return on investment. Like obviously we paid a premium upfront cost to ship and buy this turnkey. But when you look at what we got out of it and how quick we were able to grow and start having some return on investment, it was pretty fast. 6 weeks after we seeded, we were generating revenue. And we plant pretty dense. We're growing on a 42-day total cycle, 21 days in our main growing area. And we pack it in dense, 1,500 plants in each farm per week is what we're harvesting. And so they're smaller heads, just densely packed. And since we're not growing heads to be marketed as a whole head, we go with quick and dense planting, and then we create our mixes out of that. Each of these systems, these walls are on rack and pinions, so they can move to the right and left to allow for growing space. And then when the lights are on and everything's growing, there's about 16 inches of space between the lights and the plants. There's 88 growing panels in the farm. Each panel has 7 feet of growing space, and there's 5 growing channels on each of those panels. And so depending on what you're growing, you may use 5 or 3 or maybe only 2 of those channels, depending on what your harvest circumference looks like. We are using polycotton wicking strips, and those are fed by 2-gallon per minute pressure sensitive drip emitters that are being fed from a 100-gallon water reservoir. And then the farms are just on a tilt, and all the water drains down to a gutter system, returns it back to the reservoir. The HVAC system is returning humidity back into the tank, and so that helps with our water conservation with these farms. Just a few photos of us here give you a better idea of how it looks inside, and some of the things we grow. You can kind of see that lower photo with the cotton poly wicking strip sandwiched between the foam. The foam's just there to kind of wedge the media into And then you can see some of our lettuce heads there growing. So we take advantage of all the space we can, and we have a few other photos. You can see there's also an ebb and flow nursery where we do the early stage from seed to seedling growing. And you can see what those look like on that lower right photo that we're holding up there. Those are plants that are ready to transplant there. What we do, so we harvest directly off the walls. So, with the walls opened up, we could literally have almost 5 people if we wanted to harvesting at one time on one of these walls. So that's one of the advantages of the system is you can really open up a lot of space and invite a lot of people in and do a lot at once if you need to. We don't typically do that because we like to space the labor out more over the week. But, depending on your needs, if you were wanting to farm in a shorter amount of time, the amount of space that you can open up in these farms to do this work would really be an advantage there. And so we basically just pull a head off. We wear these harvest buckets that you can see me wearing there, and we will make one cut. We're using Salanova lettuces or all one cut type lettuces. So we will just separate the root from the leaf, and they fall into a larger bucket, sanitized bucket that we select all sorts of different heads as we go, and that naturally kind of blends the product for us. And then we store those storage totes in a cooler for 24 hours at 37 degrees. Each farm's producing on average between around 2,400 ounces, so 150 pounds of food a week. So we can grow 300 pounds a week for our community, and that ends up being about 8 tons annually of leafy greens production for Ketchikan. So it's pretty solid. That year-round growing opportunity does really add up at the end of the year. And we can see fluctuations between, I'd say an average of 400 ounces one way or the other, depending on the magic of hydroponics or lack thereof that week, as we deal with, our reservoir health and things like that. We grow a lot of different leafy greens as well. So we have choys and kales and parsleys and sorrels, and we like to blend those up and sell those as a value-added kind of sidecar to go along with our subscriptions. I also built a microgreens rack that's an NFT using 10-inch NFT troughs, and I built it with maker pipe racks. Basically followed some guy's YouTube program, and it's pretty good. It doesn't actually. So there's some types of microgreens I don't love growing on it, but it grows peas really great, radishes, a few others, and so that's what it looks like there. And it's something that we were able to fit into one of our containers, so we took advantage of extra space we had in the container to grow more, which is a lot of fun. So we converted a 6x10 cargo or 6x8 cargo trailer into a walk-in cooler. So we were able to mount a typical wall mount AC unit, use a cool bot, and we insulated the container, and that's where we store all our product in while we're cooling it off before we distribute it. A little idea of what our packaging looks like. When we're delivering to our customers, they leave an insulated tote out for us, usually, or a cooler. We do all our sales through Shopify. We just did we had 160 subscribers last week, and we just bumped it up to 190 with a really great Facebook ad that just nailed it this week for adding some subscribers, because we are moved out of wholesale sales, and we kind of have cleaned out one of our farms, and now we're opening it back up again, and we're going to grow our direct-to-consumer model. The wholesale market is way too seasonal in Ketchikan to support that model year-round, and so we are going to just continue to focus in on local people who live here who want to have this as a steady part of their diet. So we sell a 7-ounce bag to them for $9 each, and there's a minimum of 2 bags they have to buy each time. The lettuce lasts a really long time for them, so many people are on a bi-weekly subscription, and they have no problem with the quality of the product after 2 weeks in their fridge. And so we just require that they buy two if we're going to come out and deliver. We do free delivery in the city and $3 out of town. Ketchikan's on a road system that has about 10 miles north or south of the city. So if you end up out of city limits, we'll have a small charge to deliver to you. But we are on average right now delivering to about 130 families a week and so we have 190 subscribers. Many are weekly subscribers, some are bi-weekly, so that's how that shakes out. And we're pretty flexible. You can pause or skip or cancel your subscription yourself. So we work with people if they go on vacation for spring break, they can pause, and we find that flexibility is a key to our success, keeping people in the long run to stay subscribed with us because they don't feel like it's inconvenient for them to be able to take a break from the product when they need to. And we just kind of build that into our how many we sell. We have some retail stores that will sell our extras at a wholesale price. So that's how we can manage if we are a little bit short or a little oversupplied for the week. The retail vendors will soak that up. Here's a little bit of what it looks like if you're a customer of ours managing your subscription. So you can pause or cancel. So just a bit of a customer portal on our website that allows us to sell that way. Here's a kind of a map of Ketchikan through our delivery route service. So you can see all the stops we make on the island. We have a little electric Nissan Leaf that we operate. It's 110 bags of lettuce that can fit in it. And we operate at 3 cents an operating mile for electricity and energy to drive it. We average 15 stops an hour, and we collect about $150 a week in delivery fees. And our average revenue per stop is about $20. If you do the math there, we're paying currently our delivery driver about $22 an hour to deliver for us. When you then subtract the delivery fees and you look at all of our other delivery costs, the cost to distribute our product is about 2% of the revenue we collect from it. So that works for us. We're happy with that distribution cost. Here's one of our, how we look in local health food stores, retail options. So that is, like I said, a nice way for us to deal with some of our excess product each week that we're not able to sell ourselves. We were recognized as Ketchikan's Entrepreneur of the Year recently, and we like to do a lot of outreach and bring kids from the school system in to come see our product. And we had Lisa Murkowski come visit last summer too, which was fun. And kind of just a little bit of a finished product shot there and some of our customer feedback that we get there. So yeah, that's about it. That's our farm, another kind of look at it from there. And we're excited for 2025. We're seeing a lot of stress in the agricultural system in the country overall, and whether it's tariffs or lack of field workers to pick crop. I think there's going to be some real problems coming this summer for food. So we're happy to be investing in a local option here in our community. And I'm free to take any questions you like about our products and our program.
Do you have an estimate of how long it took you of running to kind of pay off the cost of the containers? You also don't have to answer that, but I'm just vaguely curious.
Yeah, we're still paying debt into into operating these things. It was a pretty big upfront cost. So, each one of these machines, if you wanted to buy one right now, is $168,000 before you shipped it. So we're on a 10-year debt service plan there. We're kind of like 4 years into it. We did borrow as a startup, which had some advantages, of course, versus it's really hard to get a loan when you're already operating. They like to loan to startups. But we had to do it on a variable rate, which during COVID, it was like low rates, and we had been in a low rate environment forever. But it has been one of the challenges of our operation is to watch interest rates soar and our business debt soar along with that. But overall, we're able to certainly manage those debt payments within the business model and still have a model that operates in the black. And it took us a while to get our pricing figured out. It took us a year to get good at doing this enough to feel like we were hitting these type of production numbers. And then just we were the first to market here, and just establishing, as many of you understand, people's relationship with lettuce was fraught. It wasn't something that they were super successful at the grocery stores with buying. It gets rotten really quick. This is just not a core part of people's diets historically. And we know with like some other vendors that are selling harder vegetables to eat, there's also like, just even with dental health and certain older folks in our community, like they just kind of want to eat soft food, canned food. And so luckily leafy greens are pretty easy to eat, but it's been something where we're trying to like really help people understand that this product's worth eating. It's nutritionally dense, it's flavorful, it's delicious, and that they should incorporate it in their food budget. And that just takes time. But our goal is to get to, now that we're focusing on 100% subscribers, we're trying to get to 300 subscribers. It's our goal here. So if we do that, then we'll be well on our way to paying back the debt. So
yeah. Do you think you could handle 300 subscribers with the production level you have?
yes, that's probably going to be, I mean, so if we're saying one farm, like a comfortable level for us for one farm is to produce 350 units of product a week, that we should be able to get to 700 growing two, and then 700, and if we had 300 subscribers, which would maybe end up being about 250 deliveries a week, that will still be well under that for our subscriber base, and we'll have to have some retail options. But yeah, you kind of do the math there. Like it's we can produce about 350 units per farm of something that we can sell for $9. I'm not, distribution becomes a challenge in these models at this scale. Like, can we successfully distribute that much product? I don't think I don't think you're looking at that. That's a top end like production goal. Whether revenue will actually meet that is probably not realistic, but I bet we can come within 10% of that, or 10% maybe below that number. But yeah, we have a lot of runway to grow. There's 5,300 households on our island. And right now we're serving 190 of them. So it seems like grabbing another 140 would be doable. And I ran a Facebook ad. I spent $90 on a Facebook ad. I grabbed 22 subscribers, well more paid for the ad. And our average subscriber has spent $750 with us as a company.
Wow, that's great.
And these are people that, our best subscribers are spending $1,200 with us in a year, and they've been with us for 4 years. So we have
That's
a devoted
fantastic.
following. There are people that treat the lack of our product in their life like they have lost something they're truly addicted to, which is sort of fun to see. Like they get real cranky. Yeah, it's like people with their Diet Cokes.
Salanova does that to people. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
say that's my
exactly.
favorite lettuce to grow. I have to admit
Mhm.
it. I have a question. Who's your
Yeah.
seed sourcer? Where do you get your seeds?
Johnny's seeds.
Yeah. Are you buying
They're
pelletized or are you buying
we
straight seed?
do.
Okay.
Yeah, pelletized. We use a vac seeder, autos. It's a wand seeder, so we're growing on 200 cell trays. So we have 10 wide, 20 long. So we have a wand seeder that hooks to a vacuum, so we can pick up 10 seeds at a time and drop it down the tray. Yeah, we use pelleted seeds for lettuce because they're so annoyingly small, and we really want to not have to sort through picking out multiple heads before they go into main production. We And so yeah, there's the Salanova pelleted seeds are definitely about as expensive of a seed as you can get. But well worth it for the operational efficiencies we find from it. And the growth is great. Oh, I lost you, Mel. I think you're still on mute.
It's okay. I was talking to my coworker here for a
Oh,
sec.
okay.
Um, are what's your media that you're using? Just out of curiosity.
We are using a product out of Canada called Quick Plug. We we used to use iHort, but we had all sorts of issues with iHort on quality control and kind of funky stuff in there. I think like the first fungus gnat infestations we ever got with our system were from those products. Now we actually ship up a dry, dehydrated plug that we rehydrate through our system. So the weight of each box is really light, and we buy a pallet at a time. So we buy 28 boxes. It's 112,000 plugs at a time. And because it's a dry product, it can store really, really long time without any worries about, mold or issues around that. And so we just scrambled to get another order in ahead of tariffs, and we were able to get through the border without getting assigned a 25% tariff on that product. So we're good for a little while. Hopefully, like our two countries can learn to play nice, or our country can learn to play nice, I guess. And then we don't have to worry about this awesome trade partner we have that supplies our product. But it was going to be $1,000 hit to that cost of that pallet if that had happened, which was not going to be fun to deal with. So
No.
yeah.
The other question
Um,
was, it looked like your system is focused on saving water, where some of the other commercial growers we've talked about, we're talking about like constant dumping of the tank, like on an everyday basis. So you've been
right.
able to make it work with kind of like conserving. You said the water drains to the bottom and then you reuse it. Like how long do you
Yes.
water? What does that look like? Just I'm curious because that was something where someone before I was a little shocked because they were like, we just constantly are draining the water. And I was like, that's a lot of water usage.
Yeah. So drain to waste is a very popular hydroponic process. You see it a lot in cannabis growing. The
Mhm.
advantages of it are you're feeding your plants very specifically exactly what you want to feed them at all times. With a recirculating system, which is what we're using, you are going to know what's in your water on a nutritional level, to a parts per million basis, ideally, based on how you dosed it for a while. And if you're monocropping lettuce, you probably have a better idea of how that nutrient profile changes over time. But we did a lot of water testing initially, and we would constantly be sending in lab samples every 3 days to watch how the nutrition profile changed over time. Now, if you're using brassicas alongside lettuce or even basils, or you're going to have a lot of different appetites at the table with different pH and different nutritional needs. You can try to make up for some of those deficiencies with foliar feeding potentially, and it's really easy to foliar feed on this in this system with the way the walls are presented. But we just have chosen, to monocrop as much as possible with lettuces to help keep the health of that tank better. Now, I was just visiting John in Juno Greens, who's using he's got a what's his style? A deep water culture system. He's got 8,000 gallons of water circulating in his system, but he has getting very close to being able to never have to dump any of that water because he's
No.
tested his water enough and he tests it frequently to know that he's deficient in a particular element, and he'll just go and add that element specifically to make up for that deficiency. So with the recirculating system, with enough investigation in your process and routine in your process, you can over time learn where the deficiencies are going to show up and supplement. And there is a example of a Cornell research hydroponic grow at the Cornell system where they've had a recirculating tank growing for the last 25 years. without dumping the water. Now, what we do is we're draining out at 3 weeks. We're running 100-gallon tank. There just isn't a lot of forgiveness there, and it's the impact isn't as big. If we had 8,000 gallons of water, I'd be a lot more motivated to not dump all that water out. 100 gallons is not so bad. What I'm trying to do when I took away from the Southeast Alaska Farmers Conference is I'm hoping to be able to soon start making biochar, which is a way of taking non-treated pallets that we have in abundance here, burning them in a special kiln that would create a high quality char product, crushing that char up, and then filtering out my wastewater through that before it goes into the city wastewater, and then being able to sell that charged biochar with all the nutrients that I put in it and all the biologics that I'm running in my system in it, and sell that as a value added product to soil farmers and soil growers in our community. That's definitely a goal of our business to get to that point. It's probably going to be next fall before I can really take it on in earnest, but it is exciting to look at this recirculator, another value added product I can make with potential waste from my system. And so if you are dealing with waste in hydroponics, I would highly recommend looking at biochar as a potential to capture some of the loss of that nutrient, keep it out of the water systems, and reuse it to sell as a value-added product to people that want to grow in soil in your community.
Yeah.
Connected at all with Kaylee Gash, who's at the experiment farm up here in South Central?
I haven't, no. I mean, if she's into biochar, I'm pretty new in the topic. It was just introduced by a woman named Kelpie out of Oregon, who was a keynote speaker at the Southeast Alaska Farmers Conference. And so, yeah, I'm still learning all about it. But yeah, I'd love to.
Feel free to reach out to Extension as a resource then, because I know she's been doing some studies at the Matanuska Experiment Farm, and last summer we had a guest professor up from, I want to say Texas, but I'm not remembering which lower 48 state, to come and teach biochar. So they've definitely been thinking about that. So if you have questions,
Cool.
definitely reach out to
Cool.
And
Yeah,
Art Nash is really invested in biochar stuff.
Yeah.
He's up here in Fairbanks. So
Cool.
I just want to go back to what you were talking about, buildups in your recirculating system. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we've been working on up here with the bio fertilizer, the microbe-based fertilizer, because we've been testing that out where the microbes that we get started in the bioreactor, and then there are fertilizer, but those microbes are keeping the salts in check and and the bad bacteria. So they have been testing this at one of our local high schools, and determined they haven't added water. I mean, they haven't had to dump out water. The only thing they have to do with that system is add water and a little bit of fertilizer every now and again, and they use the same water system for the entire year growing. They never had to dump it, and it's really effective, and the plants were as happy, and they had no issues, and it was
Labor
great.
saving too, right?
Yeah.
What I'd say, it's a drawback of our system that we're using 2 gallon per minute pressure sensitive drip emitters. The micron level that needs to, you need to put a filter bag over your send pumps that are going to deliver water to those emitters, but those emitters can clog if you get too much sediment in there. So on one level, what's a challenge is an organic biofertilizer wouldn't be an acceptable choice for this particular system, unfortunately, because of that constraint of how it's growing. I mean, it's just like there's always a drawback and an advantage in all of that. That'd be one of the big drawbacks of the freight farm system. And so any kind of organically derived nutrient source is going to have to be very, very filtered down to something that wouldn't upset the system's
and that's the
ability to
advantage
water.
of doing the deep water culture versus
Yes.
that type of system, because you don't have that issue in the deep water. So at that school, they switched from the NFT to the deep water culture, and
Yeah.
because they were having blow off on the hoses
Yeah.
and it was causing
Yeah.
problems. And so they switched to the NFT, from the NFT to deep water culture, and it's been fabulous ever since. So
Yeah. And I think like that, I mean, obviously you're making a huge choice right off the bat when you're deciding what hydroponic system you want to do it in a shipping container or not. And
Yeah.
Max's system at NFT or ours with wicking is kind of, as far as I know, the only real practical ways to do it in a shipping container. And then doing a DWC system, I don't know, to me sounds pretty wild. If someone, I don't know anyone really doing it. I assume you could do a crackety Dutch bucket kind of system in the floor of a shipping container, but it doesn't really work for vertical and in some of the space advantages there. But
if you
you
did
can,
them on, we have them on like the Gorilla racks, and then you can have a number of them, and then we're using sleds. So
cool.
and just we drilled holes for recirculating, and it works. We
Hmm.
don't even have a tank system because everything is in
Oh,
the,
in the DWC, yeah.
in the DWC, so you don't even need to do
Yeah.
that. You're just adding it to the tanks
Yep.
themselves. So it's a little different than how they do it at Anchorage Greens and probably at Juneau Greens if they're
Yeah.
doing deep water culture, because they have a whole separate tank that they put the fertilizer in, and then that's recirculated
Yeah.
back into there. Where we've been doing, we simplified it when we just went with sleds, and then it's recirculated through those two that
Cool.
on the shelves that we're doing is 2 sleds, but you could do 3 if you really wanted to. And then you've got per rack, depending on the size of the system, the rack you built. You right now, the one they have 2 racks at the high school, and there's over 300 plants for the 2 racks. So
One
that's pretty
one thing
efficient.
that helps me and when I talk to other farmers and try to understand how to compare all these systems, it would be either I like to look at revenue per square foot per day and cost per square foot per day, and then or you could do yield per square foot per day, but it's that per day metric that really makes a lot of sense or helps kind of understand how to compare. Because someone could have a lot of revenue or yield, but have a lot of time in that system. And in all these systems, the value is how quick can you turn over the plant at some sort of marketable value, right? That lowers your cost per square foot, or at least like balances with that cost per square foot. So yeah, I was looking at John's system and his DWC and the amount of how much he finishes on 36 whole rafts, and looking at how much in his new facility, how many of those holes he had, essentially how many lettuce heads can he produce, and then he was at 2 weeks in that final stage, so getting it then down to how many heads per week is he producing, and then how many heads per square foot is he producing. And since he's not necessarily weighing his heads, it's easier to then look at, well, how much is he getting for a head, and look at a revenue per square. And then we can compare what my cut lettuce revenue per square foot is versus his whole head revenue per square foot. So yeah, it's super cool. And I think anyone that's in looking at a commercial system really needs to be thinking about those numbers in particular. As far as you can grow a lot of beautiful things with hydroponics, but some of them are real losers when it comes to their
Efficiency.
value as a marketable commodity.
Yeah. I
The
agree.
$50 tomato exists.
The Japanese know how to sell all those.
Yeah.
The $80 single strawberry or whatever. I'm curious too, like how much you/other people like Mel you've talked to or think about with these systems of how much there's a knowledge going in about the goal of like yield per foot per day or whatever versus how much is it kind of trial and error and then figuring it out. Because I have had some people when they're interested in maybe starting these things be like, well, how much money could I make? And I'm like, well, what's your plan? Because like I don't really know what the answer is without kind of
Totally.
ifs. And so you think it's a lot of ifs, like I'm gonna try this, and then if that's the case, then maybe this, but still after a year it's gonna change, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
answer to give.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and Jeff, you're kind of in the same boat as another group of guys that I got started on a farm. They had no farming experience. I think they grew garden, but they were definitely not a commercial farm experience in any way, shape, or form. And they took the time to go through developing a business plan and really researching and talking with other growers. So they connected up with Trevor at Anchorage Greens, and he became their mentor and sort of walked them through figuring out that basic part, just like what you're talking, Marissa. It's like, okay, so if I've
Yeah.
got this many
Give you that answer
feet,
right away. Yeah.
yeah, and is not jumping in per se as having a good idea, and it will always not necessarily be what you expect it, but if you can like kind of reach out and get the expert advice before you even start, rather than just jumping in and playing with things. Every single person I've ever talked to who's gotten into commercial hydroponics says, these are the things I would not do again if I had to do it over. And that's where you can really benefit from those folks, is learning what not to do versus what to do and what's going to be the most efficient. And everybody does it differently. It depends on where you are at. And I think
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
good.
Marissa, the things I'd be considering if I were you is, one is, what's your climate, and can a system like mine function there? We do have people that use these farms in Minnesota and Canada and very, sub-zero zones. So it is possible, but they're more challenged at those temperatures for sure. We're happy to be in a Goldilocks zone here in Ketchikan where it's really temperate. But we also enjoy really cheap power here. We pay 11 cents a kilowatt hour. That's some of the cheapest power in the state. If you get into other parts of Southeast, and certainly other parts that are using natural gas or coal, on the rail belt, you're talking in 50 cents a kilowatt hour potential there. That really is going to change your model on how you decide you want to be profitable. But you can build a spreadsheet that basically takes all these costs that you think you're going to have, your overhead and your cost of goods sold, your grow media, your seeds, how many you think you're going to use, and you can build a spreadsheet that does give you a estimated cost per panel or cost per square foot per day, and then try to understand what your market price would be for a finished product and what others tell you within the system you're growing should be an expected, time to market, how many days it's going to take to get to the size that you think you can market this product at that size. And just try to look at this as, what's my cost every day to run this farm and what's my revenue every day and you just want to make sure you understand what that delta is. And if it's really slim, I'd be really concerned about it. You want it to be pretty healthy, because you know that things don't always go to plan, pumps fail. And so we, so being able to know those two numbers as you're planning as best you can is that's how we tried to build our business model. That's why we went to the banks and got loans, right? So this is 100% self-funded, owned for-profit business. So the banks don't mess around. They know you're not getting grants or anything like that of anything substantial. So having that kind of data to come at them with. And that was what was nice about having a freight farms platform, is there was lots of people using these systems before we did, that we could talk to them, get a lot of information about what's possible here. And then you kind of innovate on your own and figure out what works for you too.
Yeah, this is great.
It's all, yeah, this
Well,
is really helpful. Thank you. Because the context in which I work is a little different, but it's always useful to just kind of know the right questions to tell people to ask themselves before they get started. And I've had a hard time kind of thinking about exactly how to word some of those things. So that's really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Well, we got about 4 more minutes on our call here for everybody's time, being mindful. I'm really looking forward. Next week we'll be in Kodiak and giving a presentation about the bioreactor and microbe-based fertilizer. But I'm I am so, there's so many great things. I just wish we could do more. We could have a whole hydroponics conference.
Yeah.
So many. Someday maybe we can do that. I would love to see about doing that. I know there's so many people would be really interested in it.
Yeah.
But Geoff, if you're interested in joining and more of these meetings and hearing about all the other stuff, or just watching the videos, now you have the link to the YouTube, and you can watch kind of the things that we're doing at each of these meetings at any time.
Sure.
They're always available. Next month we have uh folks from the Huna tribal group that's doing some hydroponics out there, and they're going to be giving
Cool.
a presentation, so it'll be pretty interesting. They're doing some work in the schools and in the dish in their tribal area.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
got to
really
meet them in February at Southeast Alaska Farmers Conference.
yeah,
Really cool.
thanks to
Yeah.
Amy for turning us on to them. So it's kind of cool. If
Yeah.
you know anybody else who you think would be good for giving a presentation, let us know, because
Okay.
it just asking. It's always good to know, and just sharing all the good stuff that's happened in the state is really important. So
Yeah. My email is info@ketchikanevergreens.com. Ketchikanevergreens.com is our website. So if any of you guys ever have questions, Marissa, if you're trying to figure out or you want to hear a little bit more about my spreadsheet that I look at to make things, I'm happy to help everybody as much as I can. So shoot me an email and we can go from there.
great. Um, anyway, all right. I think maybe we should wrap it up. Does anybody else want to share anything before we go? What's going on? Brett, you talked a little bit before we started, but any other updates? Okay.
I was
Well,
putting
cool.
up a bucket system. That's why I had my little
Oh,
baby bucket
nice.
system in
Look
Becky's
at that.
office. Should be
Cool.
growing some stuff soon. But
Cool.
yeah, Jeff, I'll send over some more questions. That's kind of my dream and the vision is delivery, kind of bringing back the milkman mentality, but for produce.
Yeah.
I love this. I
So,
would
and
wish
with
I
electric
want that up
vehicles, so
here.
you're doing everything that we really want to incorporate up here. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time to
Hit me
tell
up.
us.
I can tell you, like, look at your road system, help you see it, whatever helps. But just we've got a pretty good program going with that. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm happy to talk about it.
And that's, yeah, I said it in the chat, but that's literally my dream. I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to fit my CSA box on the back of my bike in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah,
About
nice.
5 miles down the Chester Creek Trail. So
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to look in the chat here. There we go. Oh, sweet. All right.
All right.
Well, nice to meet
cool.
you guys.
Nice to meet you too. Max, I don't know if we can stay on or not. Maybe we could just do a phone call about, what do you think? Since
I'm
Liam's
open
not
to
on.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe I'll just give you a call after this and we'll chat about next week. How's that?
sounds good.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, thanks again, Geoff, for joining us, and thanks everybody
Yeah.
else for being here.
Good to
Good
see you all.
luck with everything, Brett, and hope things get resolved and get back up to running at some point soon.
excited to see you in person next week, Mel and Max.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Thanks.
Travels.
Have a great
Cheers.
afternoon. All right. Bye.